Hello and welcome to another exciting KXCR Conversations. I'm your host, Larry Bloomfield. Today we have a wonderful call-in guest. It is Dr. Patrick Porter, and he is here to talk a little bit about brain health and Alzheimer's. Thank you so much for calling in today, Doctor.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, we really do appreciate when anybody can share a little bit about anything in our community to be able to give us a little bit of an education. And it turns out that this month is dedicated, along with a few other things, to health and brain health and and I believe it's Alzheimer's. Is that correct?
That's right.
Awesome. Well, I thought maybe we could start off with giving a little bit of a background on yourself and how you came to the position you're at, and maybe we can get into that a little deeper at that point.
Right. This has been a labor of love for me for almost my whole life. My dad was a chronic alcoholic, so I like to say I was blessed to be the son of an alcoholic.
Wow.
And I was a struggling student, so I had really neurological disorders that you would call attention deficit disorders or hyperactivity. And through my dad learning technology-driven meditation, I was able to calm my brain and excel through school. I went through, my college was at Louisiana Baptist University in Shreveport, Louisiana, and where I learned about counseling, but then I got into doing addiction therapy, and I developed a piece of equipment known as the BrainTap. Mm-hmm. My first equipment I designed way back in the 80s for another company, but in 2013 we decided to make one that we could put out for the general public to use to help with brain function, and we call it brain fitness. So in the same way that the 70s, if you were in the 70s, you can probably remember if somebody said, hey, I'm going to go exercise, you're going to think tennis, running, playing golf.
Yeah.
Now today when somebody says, hey, I'm going to go exercise, you're going to say the gym. Well, I think 2020 is the age of the brain, because so many of us are getting older and we're finding out these neurological disorders that were never around really. I mean, when I was growing up, I didn't remember all these people having dementia, Alzheimer's disease, and all of these different issues with their nervous system. Mm-hmm. So that's what brought me to this point.
Nice. Well, it definitely is a concern for just about anybody because we'll all be aging at one point or another. And obviously, we want our brains working as best as possible throughout that whole time. Maybe you can give us a little bit of an idea of some of the things that we can do to enhance our abilities to keep on that cutting edge of using our brain's health.
Right. The number one for me is we need to have recovery time. And recovery time doesn't always mean just sitting in front of the TV and vegging out, because that can actually be detrimental to the nervous system. They say sitting is the new smoking. But it's doing an activity like some kind of mindfulness exercise. Of course, we have our digital mindfulness at BrainTap, but you can sit and do some breathing exercises. And as bizarre as that sounds, every negative emotion is tied to the lack of air. So when somebody's not breathing, they have fear, frustration, anxiety. And we find actually as our brain ages without the proper motivation or exercise or nutrition, that one hemisphere actually slows down before the other. So by doing this kind of mindfulness practice, you'll keep your brain balanced and keep you going. That's number one.
Nice.
Number two is to get out there and physically exercise. The reason we have such a big brain as a mammal, we have a bigger brain than most, is because we got up on our hind legs and we started looking out and used our vestibular system, which is our balance. And a lot of people think of their balance as being a function of physical activity, but it's a combination of physical activity and breathing. And if people aren't breathing right, if you've ever seen anybody dance that's holding their breath, it's kind of a funny scene, because to really dance and to be good at it, you kind of go with the flow and you're breathing and you're moving. Our nervous systems are designed to move and breathe, and that's one of the best things you can do for your brain. Number three, I would say, is stop the multitasking if you're doing it, especially as we age. It really taxes our brain and stresses our body out in ways we can't even imagine. They used to say people that multitask were really smart and did this, but now they know that when you multitask, you're doing two things poorly instead of one thing poorly.
Well, nobody wants to make an error or screw up anything, so it's obvious that if we can do a little better and focus more attention to one thing, then maybe that's the better way of managing it, which is probably really great advice because we all want to do the very best we can, I'm sure.
Yes, it's true. The other thing I think is I like what the Dalai Lama said, look at all your problems with fresh eyes, kind of use a little bit of distance thinking, don't be so caught up in the middle of it. We call this engagement of the brain. And some people get so engaged in the negative effects of their life, they let all the good times,
slide
go by the wayside.
Yeah.
So we want to really train our brains to focus on the positive, like the old song says, focus on the positive and eliminate the negative. That's one of the best things you can do, especially for an aging brain, is to focus, because when we think positive thought, we actually trigger the most powerful pharmacy on earth, the human brain, to produce those neurotransmitters, which are those are the chemicals that make us feel good in our brain. So we can actually trigger that. We don't have to wait for a positive event to happen in our life. We could sit quietly, do some breathing exercises, start remembering some of our most positive, pleasant memories, and we'll actually get a mood boost, and it actually works to improve our brain function and memory.
Very nice. Awesome. Well, it's always a lot better to be in a positive mood than a bad one. And if that can actually enhance your abilities to use your brain better, especially as we're aging, it definitely is a push to being happy.
Yeah. The science out there actually shows that chronic low-level stress actually shrinks our brain. And, of course, as we age, we don't want our brain to shrink.
No.
Most people don't know this, but at night while we're sleeping, our brain can shrink up to an inch because of dehydration. So we should also drink. You have to figure out what the timing is for you. For some people it's 4 hours, some people it's 2 hours before bed, so you don't have to get up all night going to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
But have a glass of water to hydrate your brain before sleep. And when you get up in the morning, as big a glass of water as you can do that before you do anything else, because your brain uses 25% of the energy of the system, and it uses water. It's a hydro engine. So we need to really get that brain lubricated so it works well, and then look for foods that are good in omega-3 fats like avocados, and use the salad oil you should use. It's like olive oil. We need good fats in our body to feed our brain. Our brain is 60% fat.
Yeah.
So those are some things that keep you energized, keep your brain functioning in a sharp way.
Oh, wow. Well, I do myself take a great deal of vitamins in the morning just to get me going and all, and I take fish oil and everything. I hope that I'm getting enough omega-3s through that, but I'm sure that there's probably a great deal of food out there that could also enhance that, like just eating fish or whatnot. Would you have any recommendations on food types that would keep us on the better end of eating?
Yeah, one of the things sugar is probably the worst thing you can do for your brain. So look for the low glycemic fruits like blueberries and strawberries. Those are good for your brain. Look for snacks that are going to give you that will give you the fats that you can use, like pumpkin seeds, almonds, things like that will give you a sustained energy. Coffee is okay in moderation because caffeine's a mood booster and can make you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
We want to have that fatty fish like you're talking about. I tell people, if you can, at one meal a day, have some kind of fatty fish like salmon or tuna or even sardines. Those are going to give you what your brain really needs. And then fiber is really important. That's one of the things that's lacking in most processed foods. I have a saying, if it comes in a can, bottle, and a wrapper, and you can't read its ingredients, you probably shouldn't be eating it. So if you can get fiber, if not, get some fiber at the store, like Benefiber, and add it to your coffee or add it to a drink of water. Just one scoop a day is going to make a big difference because we have this gut-brain connection. When you eat food, it disrupts gut regulation, and your gut actually controls the production of neurotransmitters. So your brain instructs the gut, but the gut is what makes 95% of those neurotransmitters.
Wow.
So this gut-brain connection is so important in what we eat.
Wow. Well, that definitely gives you a reason for eating a little bit more healthier. Awesome. Well, luckily, these are really great advice because enhancing your ability to start to think better, to feel better, all of these put us in a better mood, and our days are going to wind up getting better also.
That's right. And it all plays into the number one thing that we need to do to keep our brain healthy is sleep.
Mm.
If you're not sleeping well, a lot of people think sleep is equated to time in bed.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true at all. We need, most of us need between 6 and 8 hours of sleep, but what we really need is 1 hour of this deep level 4 sleep that opens up the glioblastoma cells, which channels of our brain, which means that's how we dump the toxins from our brain.
Mm.
And if we don't reach that deep level sleep, the brain starts to actually leak these toxins, and we can have foggy brain, headaches. These are all typically caused, or a good number of them are caused by not sleeping well. And then we need at least 2 hours of REM sleep. The
Wow.
rest is just to rest and relax. Some people actually function better on 6 hours sleep, even though, in the past it's been said we needed 8 hours. But what we now know through the science of sleep is we need to cycle through the sleep cycle at least 3 to 7 times, depending upon who you are and how fast that cycle works for you. And as you go through, that's what builds up that neurotransmitter bank account, which affects your mood, your ability to think, to remember and recall, and it really enhances the brain. Most people have a lot of inflammation in the brain from whatever's going on, so sleep is one of the ways we recover from that. So deep sleep is really, really crucial.
Well, everything you're saying is something I've always heard, but it just seems to be really striking a note with me because as I get older, I've got a lot of stuff going on my plate. I'm always trying to get everything together. And, well, I've always got that little minor headache that's coming in. And when I look at the list of things you just said, well, I think my sleep, fiber, food, everything is probably affecting me, and I better reconsider everything I'm doing. So it's definitely something to think about in every aspect of life.
Yes. One of the things, too, that if the listeners have not researched inflammation, most medical professionals know, they will now say almost all of our critical or chronic illnesses are caused by inflammation in the body, which means the body is not able to get rid of the toxins in enough time. So our body's like inflamed, and so that's why we get the amyloid plaque in the brain, which is the big thing that causes and really precipitates dementia or Alzheimer's. So if we can keep that down, all the things I've talked about will help to lower those. They've been proven to do that. And like I said, the only thing you really need to avoid is foods that are high in sugar. That's one big step. Also, for some people in the brain, even though they might not have celiacs, they might have a gluten sensitivity. So if you're a person out there that tends to have headaches after you eat, or you just basically have mood swings, you might find maybe take 3 or 4 days and don't eat any white bread or white sugar and see how your body responds. You might find that lift in mood. And there's actually what they call ancient grains, or there's a brand at the grocery store called Ezekiel bread, which is sprouted bread. It doesn't have gluten in it. And our bodies are able to metabolize and digest it because that gluten affects brain function.
Wow.
And even though they say there's only a small group of people that get celiacs, the reality is that almost everybody's allergic to what they call dwarf wheat, which is what's out there right now. And it's all talked about a lot out there in the medical world through a book called Wheat Belly, because they showed the connection between everybody having these, almost looks like they're, usually you see an alcoholic with a big belly, but they're not drinking alcohol, they're eating bread.
Wow.
And that's what's causing it.
Wow. Oh, so many great ideas for advice here. There's just so much that I can implement. We're definitely going to have you come back on and do some of our Medical Monday conversations.
Yeah, we can go a little bit deeper into each of these, and also, just share with the listeners some of the news that's out there, some of the research that's showing. For instance, we did a research project just recently that's now rolled in from the pilot study to the full-blown study, where we had dementia patients where in 6 weeks we were able to train their brain to get a 49% neuroplastic change And that word neuroplastic, for those who don't understand it, just think of it like computer speed. We were able to speed up their brain's function by 49%.
Wow.
And we were able to help them reorganize their brain, which means after a stressful event, we all know the elderly person that gets upset and then is still upset 12 hours later. And that's because their brain isn't able to regulate. I mean, we should be able to get upset and then calm down. And there's actually, in science now, we use heart rate variability, which shows us, is your heart able to get stressed, calm down? And when it's calmed down, is it able to get stressed? We need to have that variability, just like a zebra in the Serengeti that's being chased by a lion. We need to be able to, pick up and run as fast as we can. But when that lion leaves, there's a book actually that's called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, because the zebra just puts their head down and starts eating grass as soon as the lion stops chasing them. And the lion's only 4 or 5 feet away, but they're tired, so they're not going to chase them again. And the zebra knows that and forgets they're being chased. But the stressful events, just so people understand this, one stressful event can be so powerful, the liver can produce enough sugar like you've eaten a candy bar.
Wow.
So because our body produces its own sugar in the liver to regulate, our blood sugar is so important, right? And that's why so many people are having the trouble with diabetes now, and they're not even eating sugar. They're going, I don't eat sugar, I don't understand it. It's because their lifestyle is so stressful that they're producing their own sugar. And then, of course, they have to produce, the body has to produce what it needs to get that sugar out of the bloodstream. And that's what causes the insulin reaction, which is a fat storage hormone, which then causes the body to then produce more sugar because it takes too much sugar out of the system. It becomes a vicious cycle, in other words. And that can all start with, in the morning, you start off your day with just a relaxing breathing exercise, meditation, some kind of mindfulness practice, or, go to BrainTap and download our free app and start using it.
Wow. Amazing, just all the different things that we can actually do to enhance our abilities to making our brain function and health a lot better. It's just little things, but they add up to a great deal, and it can make a huge difference at the end of the day, or especially at the end of a life.
Yes, exactly. I mean, one thing is that, when people think about their day, especially as we get older, we need to figure out when is the best time of the day to do different things. We all have peak moments during our day. If we can figure out when our peak moments are, especially someone out there that's struggling with a little bit of dementia or they're getting older, they should focus all their mental activities during that peak time. Like most people will say it's the morning because they woke up, they're fresh-minded, they have the energy. But some people find that it's lunchtime. Whatever that is for you, start working with your body and your brain, and you'll find that life flows and is much more enjoyable.
Very nice. Awesome. Well, and imagine that there's also those other times of the day. I have a tendency to find that about 8 p.m. in the evening, I get really groggy and a little bit tired and all. And if I can get to about 9 o'clock, I can get out of that mode. But it's kind of like I'm pushing myself through it. And then I get another breath of energy for probably the next 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah. There's something that's called biorhythms, and that's how our body responds actually to the light of our sun.
Mm-hmm.
Every person on Earth around between 2 and 2:30, depending upon your biology, your temperature drops 2 degrees. And it does that because these bodies are designed to move through the Serengeti, just like that zebra I talked about.
Yeah.
They're not designed to be in office buildings or, shopping malls, and things like that. We're designed to be outside 18 hours a day hunting and gathering. Even though our brains and our society has evolved, these bodies really haven't evolved at all. And, as long as recorded history, as long as there's been these bodies, we've had this kind of functioning.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it definitely is going to be something that I guess each individual has to very much look through their lifestyle and the way they're managing things and kind of regroup the whole thought on it so that they can get the very best out of themselves as possible.
Yeah. It's important that we keep up with the emerging sciences and start to explore and be flexible with our behaviors. Be willing to change what isn't working. And I always tell people, in order to improve your life, be willing to be be willing to do something terrible at first so you can be better at it. Anything worth doing well is worth doing terrible at first is typically the way I say it.
Nice. At least get started. That's the main thing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Well, again, we're speaking with Dr. Patrick Porter, and he is giving us some really great advice to being able to educate our brains and our bodies to being able to get the very best out of it. Again, this is Alzheimer's and Brain Health Month, so we definitely want to make at least the consideration of things that we could do to enhance getting ourselves back on a better track. Before you get going and all, can you give us an idea of any connection, maybe some phone numbers or a website or anything that people can further their knowledge on this if they were interested?
Yeah, if they could actually learn a lot more about it for 99 cents, they can go to a website called BrainTap.pro, P-R-O, and they can get a copy of my book, Thrive in Overdrive. And all the numbers and everything are on that website. And then also they'll get 15 days on our app where they can try it for themselves and just see if it's something that can assist them in their brain function and keeping them at the peak and becoming the very best person they can be every day.
Awesome. Well, all of this is really great advice and all. And before you go, do you have any last-minute words that you could leave us with?
I think that you need to understand that we have proven that even at 102 years old, we did a brain scan with somebody and we taught them some things. We were able to improve her brain function by over 20%.
Wow.
So a brain can be improved at any age. You're never too old to sharpen your mind. So let's get your brain going and get you healthy again.
Nice. Well, those are really great advice because there's the old saying of, oh, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but it sounds like that's just not the case.
That's definitely not the case. We can learn at any age, and they used to think that way. 20 years ago, they would have said the brain is fixed, but now they know through this neuroplastic change that we can change at any age. We just need the stimulus. And the downside to that is it takes a stressful event to really learn and grow, but we want to make it enjoyable. They call that eustress. So It's not the same stress that causes damage, but this eustress is a healthy stress that allows us to have fun and enjoy ourselves. It's like a sport or gardening or something. Those can be stressful, but they can be fun as well.
Yeah. Wow. Well, this has really been wonderful advice, and I'm thinking that everybody should take the time to consider all of the things that they're doing and maybe organizing them back in a better way to be able to get the very most out of their brain health, which is amazing. Everything from eating, sleeping, or just the sheer fact of when you're sitting to do a little meditation.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, we're speaking with Dr. Patrick Porter, and he has given us some really wonderful advice on how we can keep our brain health at its optimum position. Thank you so much for calling in today and giving us this wonderful education.
Well, I appreciate it. And we're on a mission to better a billion brains, so hopefully one of you out there is part of that.
Awesome. Well, we thank you so much for your advice, and I'm hoping that everybody would take a little effort to put it towards it, and maybe we can come out with a better outlook on everything, which sounds really great.
Yes, thank you.
And one more time on that website?
They can go to a website called BrainTap.pro, P-R-O.
Thank you so much for calling in today.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, thank you, and thank all my listeners for listening to KXCR 90.7 FM, your relevant radio station.